Well, Harley and his brother Charlie, tough cowboys through and through, loved life in Carbon County, where neighbors find all they knew. Now Harley was a buckaroo. He was the he-wolf of that range. He lived on broncs and campfire beans, and he never cared to change. He drove an old Dodge 4x4, plastered with mud and hay and grime. It actually weren't all that old, you see, but it looked well past its prime. Now, his brother Charlie was a cattleman. That business was hard to beat. He drove the same model Dodge 4x4, but his was washed up clean and neat. They both loved to sit and visit of who got rain and where, so naturally their favorite time was the Carbon County Fair. Why, Harley often said his favorite ride was the county fair parade, waving to folks on either side who were watching from the shade. Charlie also loved that day, proudly mounted on fine horse. Harley's tack was worn and scratched. Charlie's saddle shined, of course. Now Harley was a rounder, never tied the knot. Brother Charlie had a family, ranch house on a curried lot. Now well into their 80s, weathered face and hair of snow, the creases of their leathery skin a map of life did show. Harley says to Charlie, "Of this I do not jest. County fair won't roll around before they put me down to rest. But I am quite satisfied, a good run I have made, but I would dearly love to have ridden in one more county fair parade." "Well, Harley," says brother Charlie, "I know you're sort of sick, but I'll help you once more to ride that parade street made of brick." But fate had its own way. A badger hole and a colt did pair, and Harley over Jordan Road 3 days before the fair. Now Harley often said he wanted a simple coffin made of pine and no hearse to drag him to his plot. His Dodge would do just fine. Well, his nephews washed up his old truck, and when they was through, washed and waxed, the old Dodge shined like pert near new. But those undertakers had a chore, for when they found old Harley dead, his knees was drawed up to his chest, and he had one hand above his head. Well, they used a length of leather of fairly sturdy weight to get his arm pinned to his side and get him laid out straight. But when they was done, he looked quite natural, sort of like he dozed. But they had to leave those nickels on because his eyes would not stay closed. Well, it was a simple graveside service at the boneyard on the hill. 10 a.m. on fair day, the air was warm and still. But now Charlie's wife insisted that fresh flowers would be best to put on poor old Harley's grave as they laid him down to rest. She was on the peck now, so out the door Charlie flew at a long trot to the florist to see what he could do. Said he'd meet him at the graveside. With no more time to play, he hurried to the cleanest Dodge, jumped in, and roared away. Now, don't get ahead of me here. Now, what Charlie didn't notice, he was focused with a frown, is he was taking brother Harley for a fast ride into town. The railroad tracks at First Street were rough. Charlie hit 'em hard. That coffin bucked and sunfished, was bounced around and jarred, and that leather loosed on Harley, and he sat up when it did, and he knocked the top part off in that wooden coffin lid. Yeah, old Harley sat right up straight. His arm flew up from his side. Those nickels shot off into space, and his eyes, they opened wide. Brother Charlie, still in a hurry, things weren't going as he planned, turned the corner onto Main Street, right behind the high school band. Now the band led the marshals of the fair parade that year, and now Charlie, with old Harley, followed closely at their rear. And though no horseshoes clacked the bricks of which Main Street was paved, they gently rocked that old Dodge, and Harley proudly waved. The whole county was there watching. Yes, sir, folks was everywhere. Some smiled, some waved, some stood to stare. One old gal fainted dead away at the impression that they made when Harley rode his last time in the county fair parade. Harley's last parade. Thank you.